Hello students. Today we are going to start a new chapter, that is atom. In this chapter we are going to have a detailed study of the structure of atom. That means how the particles that we have inside the atoms, that are electrons, protons and neutrons, are distributed or arranged inside an atom, that we'll have to study. So in this case, the first contribution that was given by a scientist to understood the configuration of atom, or what we can say, the first contribution in regard to the study of atom was given by a scientist called Dalton. According to him, all the matters are composed of very small particles that are called atoms, and which are what we can say indivisible. That means they could not be further split into much smaller particles. After the discovery of postulate that was given by Dalton, we have different model that will help us to have a clear understanding of details of an atom. The first model that was proposed by a scientist called J.J. Thomson, and it was known as what? Plum pudding model or watermelon model. So according to J.J. Thomson model or plum pudding model or Thomson model, what we can say that every atom consists of a positively charged sphere of radius of the order of 10 to the power minus 10 meter, in which entire mass and positive charge of the atom are uniformly distributed. And inside the sphere, the electrons are embedded like seeds in the watermelon or plums in the pudding. That means all of you are familiar with the watermelon. I will not talk about the pudding, but all of you are familiar with the watermelon. So you know how these seeds are there inside the watermelon, yes or no? So these seeds we have in the watermelons are what? They are electrons. And the other part inside the watermelon, the red part, that is what? Positive charge. Okay. For example, in this diagram, the whole sphere, suppose this is a watermelon, and the negative charge, the negative small spheres that I'm showing is what? These are electrons, and the whole other part except the negative charge, negative electrons, all other parts are what? Positive charge of the atoms, which are uniformly distributed. The total positive charge of the atom are what? Uniformly distributed over the whole atom. Is it okay? And what we can say, the total positive charge of the atom are always equal to the sum total of all the negative charge, that is the sum total of the charge of all the electrons of that atom. Right? What I say, that the total positive charge of the total positive charge of the atom is always equal to the sum total of all the negative charge of all the electrons that are embedded inside the atom. And we know that the magnitude of the charge of an electron and the proton are equal, and that is why what we can say, since the total positive charge is equal to the total negative charge, the atom is electrically neutral. Okay, I will give you a video in this I will provide a video after some time that will help you to clear your understanding. So in the Thomson model we have some drawbacks, right? And what are the drawbacks of Thomson plum pudding model? it could not explain this fractal series of hydrogen in other atom. Now what is this fractal series? That whenever we will go for the next atom, next model, that then we will get that whenever the electrons that we have inside the atom will move from different orbits, move from higher orbits to lower orbits. That concept will be clear later on, but let me tell you for the time being. Whenever the electrons we have inside the atom will move from a higher orbit to lower orbit, they will emit some kind of radiations. Okay, that is experimentally found, but in the plum pudding model we don't have any kind of evidence that a electron could jump from one orbit to another orbit, and that is why they could not emit any radiations. Okay, these limitations that you will understood after some time, after whenever we will discuss the Bohr's model, then it will be clear to you. So for the timing, you just remember what are the limitations of Thomson atomic model, that it could not explain the origin of fractal series of hydrogen and other atoms. Again, it could not explain the large angle scattering of alpha particle from a thin metal foil. Okay, that means in the next model that we are going to have is Rutherford model. And what will happen in Rutherford model, that some particles, some positively charged particles are allowed to pass through a very thin gold foil, and they will be scattered at different angle. Different alpha particles are scattered in different angles, right? And the outcome we have in case of Rutherford model that we will get next, that outcome could not be explained with the help of what? With the help of the J.J. Thomson model, right? So what I told you, that the first contribution in case of the study of atom was given by whom? It was given by Dalton, right? That we got in class 9. And according to Dalton, all the matters are composed of very tiny indivisible particles that are called atoms, right? All matters are composed of atoms, and atoms are minute particles that could not be further split again. Okay, then to have a detailed analysis, detailed study of the atoms, we have different model. The first model was what? Thomson plum pudding model, J.J. Thomson plum pudding model. And according to J.J. Thomson plum pudding model or Rutherford model, what will happen? Like in a water model, we have the seeds, right? In the similar way, in an atom, whole the positive charge is uniformly distributed, and the negative charge are embedded over it, right? The negative charge are embedded like the seeds in the watermelon. Is it okay? And in this case, the total positive charge is always equal to total negative charge of the electrons, and that is why the atom is electrically neutral. And what are the limitations? It could not explain the origin of fractal series of hydrogen and other atoms, that we will discuss. What is this fractal series, that we will clearly discuss in Bohr model. And again, it could not explain the large angle scattering of alpha particles from thin metal foil as observed by Rutherford. That means the outcome we got in Rutherford model that we will discuss later. Okay, the outcome of the Rutherford model could not be explained with the help of the Thomson model. So these are the limitations. So limitation means drawbacks. So since we have drawbacks in Thomson model, we will have to go for what? Rutherford model. Okay, so what did Rutherford do? He had two students, and they are what? Jaeger and Marsden. Okay, he asked his two students to do an experiment, and this is the experimental setup of what? Rutherford alpha particle scattering experiment. This is called alpha particle scattering experiment. This is because the particles that are used to study the structure of the atoms are alpha particle. What is alpha particle? That I will tell you a little bit later. So what we have inside in this experiment, this is a lead cavity. Cavity, you know now. So cavity is something, right, where we have a very small hole through which the radiations and particles could come out. So this is a lead cavity. This is a lead cavity, and inside the lead cavity we have a source. What kind of source? Radioactive source, right? You know what is radioactive source, that whenever radioactive source is placed somewhere, it starts spontaneously emitting some radiations, right? And the source, radioactive source that we put here is what? Bismuth. Bismuth 83214. And why this lead cavity is used? This is because the radioactive source could emit radiation in all the direction. In this direction it can emit radiation, in this direction, in this direction, in this direction, in all the direction it can emit radiation, in all the direction. But what we need a very fine beam of what? Radiations. And that is why whenever the source is put inside a lead cavity, all the radiations that are emitted in other direction, that means the radiation emitted in this direction, the radiation emitted in this direction, this radiation emitted in this direction, all the direction, the radiations emitted by the radioactive source in all the other direction will be absorbed by the lead cavity, and only the radiation that is emitted through the hole, through the slit, is allowed to move. Okay, understood? And that is why lead cavity is used, not other metal is used. Why lead? Because it has a very high absorbing power. It can absorb the radiation emitted by the radioactive source, right? Now what kind of radioactive source is used here? It is bismuth, right? Bismuth. And what kind of radiation the bismuth will emit? It is called alpha radiation. Sorry, it is called alpha radiation or alpha particle. What is alpha particle? Let me tell you for the time being. You know the electronic configuration of helium that we got in class 9, that helium is H24. That means inside the helium nucleus, we have 2 proton and we have 2 electron, right? That means 2 electron. That means in an helium atom we have 2 proton and 2 electron. Now if somehow these 2 electron that we have in the helium atom will be ejected out, is somehow these 2 electrons are removed from the helium atom, what will left? In this case, whenever the 2 electron will be ejected or removed, what will be left? Only the helium nucleus. Helium nucleus will be left, right? And what will have in the helium nucleus? Only 2 proton will be left. I am not talking about the neutron. This is because neutron is chargeless particle. So obviously inside the helium nucleus 2 neutron will also be left, that I am not going to discuss. I am talking about the 2 proton for the time being. Okay, and this is what? This is nothing but the alpha particle. Okay, so helium nucleus is nothing but, alpha particle is nothing but the helium nucleus. And what is the surge? What is the surge of the alpha? What we can say alpha particle? It will be what? Since we have 2 proton, the charge of the alpha particle is how much? 2e, right? Plus 2e, where e is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb, right? And what about the mass? Mass is mass of 2. You know the mass of proton is almost equal to mass of neutron, and that is why what we can say about the mass, it is almost 2 proton and 2 neutron will be, if I consider the mass almost same, so it will be 4 of mass of proton approx. Is it okay? That is 4 into 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 27 kg. Understood? So what is alpha particle? Alpha particle is nothing but the helium nucleus. And what we have inside the helium nucleus? 2 proton and 2 neutron. So what is the total charge? What is the charge of an alpha particle? It is 2e plus 2e. E is the charge of 1 proton. Since we have 2 proton, that will be plus 2e. That is 2 into 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb. And what is the total mass of the alpha particle? It is, since we have 2 proton and 2 neutron, it will be almost 4 into 1.6 into 10 to the minus 27 kg, because mass of proton is almost equal to mass of neutron. Is it okay? So let us come to the explosion again. So this is a radioactive source. It is kept inside the lid cavity, and we have a fine beam of alpha particle here. And there is a what is this called? Collimator. Collimator means these two are what? These two are lead brick, and these two lead bricks are used to make a slit so that we can have a very fine beam of alpha particle. Again, why lead bricks are used here? This is because they are having high absorbing power. The fine beam of alpha particle now will fall on the gold foil, right? And why the gold foil? Foil, you know, all of you are familiar with the foil, very minimum thickness. Whenever the alpha particle will fall on the gold foil, they will scatter at different angle. I will come to that part later, because first of all let me discuss about why the gold foil is used. This is because the gold foil is highly malleable, that can be converted with a very thin sheet. And the gold foil that was used by Rutherford in his experiment was having a thickness of around 10 to the power minus 7 meter. 10 to the power minus 7 meter. So 10 to the power minus 7 meter thickness means this is a very thin, yes or no, like the piece of paper. And why Rutherford need a very thin foil? This is because in the foil he only need only one layer of gold atom. For example, if the thickness will be more, right? If the thickness will be more, then we have 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layer, 4 layer of, right? 4 layer of gold atom, yes or no, in the gold foil. For example, can you understand what I say? Let me show you. Suppose this is a gold foil. No, it is not better to show this one. Suppose this is a gold foil, right? So in the gold foil, what we could have? We could have one layer of alpha atom, next layer of alpha atom, again next layer of alpha atom. If the thickness is more, then we can have first layer, second layer, third layer of alpha atom. But if the thickness is very less, then obviously what we have, only one layer of hydrogen gold atom. The second and third layer will be not present there. Understood? So since Rutherford need only one layer of gold atom, that is why he made the foil having thickness of the order of 10 to the power minus 7 meter, which is very thin, right? Now whenever the alpha particle and from the radioactive source, lots of alpha particles are emitted, right? Not only 1 and 2, around 10 to the power 7, minimum 10 to the power 7 numbers. 10 to the power 7 means how much? Around 10 to the power 7 means how much? 10 to the power 7 numbers, it is around 100 lakhs. Around 100 lakhs alpha particles are emitted from the radioactive source, right? And they are allowed to pass through the collimator, then allowed to fall on the gold foil. Is it okay? And what will happen whenever the gold alpha particles will fall on the gold foil? They are scattered. They will move through the, what are the observations that I will discuss, but they will, let me tell you for a timing, they move through the gold foil at different angles. Suppose one alpha particle fall on the gold foil here and moves in this direction. Okay, This is one alpha particle is coming, fall on the gold foil, move through the gold foil and fall moves in this direction. Is it okay? And I forget to tell you, in this arrangement after the gold foil what we have a zinc sulfide scale. Okay, this is a zinc sulfide scale, and one microscope is used. Why? Because whenever the gold foil alpha particle will move through the gold foil and will move scattered at different angle, like this way, to scatter at a different angle, they will fall on the zinc sulfide scale. And whenever they will fall on the zinc sulfide scale, what will happen? A flashes of light will produce, and the flashes of light that will be produced will be what? That we could not detect with our naked eyes, and that is why a microscope is used here to determine, to check the flashes of light that will be produced on the zinc sulfide skin whenever the alpha particle will fall here. Okay, now the alpha particle is coming straight, fall on the gold foil, move in this direction, fall here, right? This is the original path of the alpha particle. Because of the presence of the gold foil, something happened inside that we will discuss. It could not travel in this path, it has to travel in this direction, right? So that is because of the presence of the gold foil, the alpha particle is suffering a deviation from its original path, right? So the angle by which the alpha particle will get deviated from its original path, that angle is called what? Angle of scattering. Okay, so this is the experimental, what you can say, arrangement of Rutherford alpha particle scattering experiment. So let us see what are the observations that we got in this Rutherford scattering experiment. So this is a graph, right? Along the x-axis what we have? Along the x-axis we have the scattering angle that we have just discussed. We consider the scattering angle up to 180 degree, right? And in this way, what we observe, what we write the number of particles scattered. Okay, and what are the observations? Most of the alpha particle pass straight through the gold foil, right? That means what will happen whenever the 100 lakhs number of alpha particle will fall on the gold foil, then most of them will pass through the gold foil undeviated. It does not experience any scattering. Okay, what is the next observation? That means almost 99% of the total alpha particle emitted from the source will move through the gold foil undeviated. Okay, what is the next observation? Around 0.14% of incident alpha particle scattered by more than 1 degree. That means very less number, because 99% is moving through the gold foil undeviated. It does not experience any what you can say deviation, right? It does not experience any scattering. Most of the alpha particle move undeviated, and only 0.14% is very less number. Less number of alpha particle, what will happen? They will pass through the gold foil and experience a deviation and experience a scattering, and this scattering angle in that case will be what? More than 1 degree. Very less angle. They are scattered very less, they are deviated with a very small angle, right? What's the third observation we have? About 1 in 8,000 deflects by more than 90 degree scattering angle. If the Rutherford allowed 8,000 alpha particle to fall on the gold foil, then what will happen? Almost 99% means almost 7,996. Let us consider, out of 8,000, 7,996 number of alpha particle will move through the gold foil undeviated, right? And 3 of that 8,000 alpha particle will experience a suffering, experience a what? or two of the 8000 alpha particle experience a deviation of scattering angle 1 degree, and one alpha particle will experience a very high deviation within very high scattering angle, that is more than 90 degree, and one around 10 to the power 7 alpha particle, that means 1 in 100 lakhs, right? 1 in 100 lakhs, that means if Rutherford allowed 100 lakhs alpha particle to fall on the gold foil, then out of that 100 lakhs only one will reverse back in the same direction, will be reverse back in the same path. That means, look at here, this number one alpha particle is moving forward, they get scattered and moves back, right? They moves back, move in this direction, again move back in the same path. 1 in 10 to the power 7 alpha particle, what they will do, they will move forward towards the gold foil and reverse back in the same path. And what about the 2 into this, right? They are experiencing a deviation within scattering angle more than 90 degree, right? And what will happen to 3 and 3 days, they experience very less deviation within very small value of scattering angle, right? So what are the observations? The observations are very, very important. The observations are that almost most of the alpha particle emitted by the radioactive source will move through the gold foil undeviated. First observation, remember. Second one, in the first one, what we can say, most of the alpha particle means 99% alpha particle move through the gold foil undeviated, and very less number of particles, 0.14 percentage. 0.14 percentage of alpha particle will experience a deviation that is approx 1 degree, right? Third observation is what? 1 around 8000 alpha particle will experience in what? Deflection within scattering angle more than 90 degree. And what will happen? 1 in 10 to the power 7 numbers, 1 in 100 lakhs, they will reverse back in the same direction, same path, okay? And that is why here in this curve, you look, 10 to the power 7, the number of alpha particle, this is the scattering angle, along the x-axis we have the scattering angle. So obviously the curve is moving like this way, it means the number of alpha particle that is moving undeviated or experiencing very small deviation angle, small scattering angle is very, very high. Am I right? And the number of alpha particle that will experience what we can say very high angle deviation is very less. And the number of alpha particle, what will happen? They will reverse back in the same path is very, very less compared to this. So curve will be like this way. Now what is the region? What is the region of this observation, right? That we have to know. The first thing is that the alpha particles are emitted from the radioactive source with a very high velocity, right? And the alpha particles are very heavier than an electron, and hence since look, they are having a very high velocity. First of all, they are having a very high initial velocity, and they are very massive compared to the mass of an electron, okay? So to what we can say, for the alpha particle to getting deflected by a very large angle, because some of the alpha particles are getting deflected with a very high scattering angle, yes or no? So to scatter an alpha particle with a very high scattering angle, what we can say, a very strong force is required. Am I right? A very strong force that should remain inside the what we can say inside the atom, gold atom, could deflect the alpha particle with a very large angle, right? And the alpha particles are getting deflected by an angle more than 90 degree, or by an angle what we can say almost 180 degree. That means what we can say, the strong force that we have inside the gold atoms, they must be positively charged, because the alpha particle itself is a positive charge. They are getting deflected. That means the strong force that we have inside the gold atom, that should be also positive. If the strong force we have inside the gold atom is negative, then obviously the alpha particle, all the alpha particle will getting attracted towards the gold atom. Yes or no? So the strong force that we have, the strong opposing force that we have inside the gold atom, that is responsible for deflecting the alpha particle with a very large angle. Okay, that should be what? That should be the positive charge of the gold atom, right? And the only way, only possibility that the positively charged high velocity, right, the alpha particle having high velocity and having have a very heavier mass, right, that alpha particles could be deflected with a large angle, only because of what we can say, only because of the positive charge of the gold atom, right? And the entire positive charge of the gold atom must have to be concentrated, right, must have to be concentrated at the central core of the atom, right? Why? This is because, look, let me start from the first again. The gold foil we are having is having only one layer of atom. That is the first case. Try to imagine. And obviously there is no gapping or very negligible gapping between the atoms we have in the gold foil, right? Now maximum 99% of the gold alpha particles are moving through the gold foil undeviated. What does it mean? It means that the maximum space inside the atom, inside the gold atom, have to be empty, because there is no spacing between the gold atom. The alpha particle can have to move through the through the atom, yes or no? So they will have to move through the atom. If the atom will not contain empty space, how the alpha particle could move through them? Are you getting my point? And since maximum number of alpha particle is moving undeviated, that means that the what we can say, the maximum space inside the gold atom will have to be empty. Okay. Next thing, very less number of 1 in around 8,000 alpha particle are experiencing what we can say very high angle deviation. And what I told you, that the alpha particle was having initially having very high velocity, right? And they are very massive compared to electron, right? And to make the alpha particle getting deflected by a very large angle, we need a very strong repulsive force inside the gold atom. We need that is the positive charge of the gold atom. And since only 1 around 8,000 is getting deflected by an angle more than 90 degree, that means the positive charge of the gold atom will have to be concentrated in a very small area inside the atom. Okay. Third thing is that 1 around 100 lakhs or 1 around 10 to the power 7 alpha particle, they are reversing back in the same direction. What does it means? That the alpha particle, what does it means? That the positive charge that we have inside the gold atom, right, will have to be concentrated in a very tiny space. Is it clear? Should I revise again? Look again, let me tell you again. First thing is that the gold foil is having only one layer of atom, right? And there is no spacing or very negligible spacing between the atoms of the gold foil. And if the alpha particle will have to travel through the gold foil, they will have to travel through the atom, right? And since most of the alpha particle, 99% of the alpha particle is traveling through the gold foil undeviated, that means maximum space inside the gold atom is empty. First observation. Second observation. Since 1 in 8,000 alpha particle is suffering a very high deviation with a scattering angle or deviation angle more than 90 degrees, what does it mean? I already told you the alpha particles are very massive, they are having very high velocity. So to deflect that kind of high energetic alpha particle by an angle more than 90 degrees, there should be a very strong repulsive force, and the repulsive force that we have inside the gold atom is nothing but the positive source of the gold atom, right? And again, since only one around 8,000 alpha particle, only one around 8,000 alpha particle is getting deflected, that means the positive source of the alpha particle must have to be concentrated in a very tiny space. Okay, third observation. Since 1 in 10 to the power 7 alpha particle reverse back in the same direction, it means the very strong repulsive force that we have inside the gold atom, that is nothing but the entire positive source of the gold atom, they must have to be concentrated in a very tiny space. And what we call it? We call it a nucleus. Clear? Now, obviously, what is this? This is nothing but is an expression that you know, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square is nothing but Coulomb's law of electrostatics, that all of you know, right? This formula will give you what? The force of repulsion between an alpha particle and the what? And the gold nucleus. Is it okay? Because Z is the atomic number of the gold, right? Ze is the surge of the gold nucleus, twice E is the surge of the alpha particle, r square is the difference between them. So this is a simple formula that will give you, that will help you to find out the force of repulsion between the alpha particle and the gold nucleus separated by a distance r. Okay, so these things I already explained. Next, yeah, so this formula, what we can say, n theta is inversely proportional to 1 by 4 theta by 2. What is n theta? N theta is the number of alpha particles scattered by an angle of theta, right? N is the number of alpha particle that is getting scattered by an angle of theta. And what relation we got? That the number of alpha particle emitted by an angle theta varies inversely as sine to the power 4 or sine to the power 4 theta by 2. Are you getting my point? It's very easy, yes or no? If the scattering angle will be what? Will be very high, the number of alpha particle will be very small, right? If the scattering angle is, what we can say, I couldn't say you, it is wrong to tell you like this way. For example, you know, if the value of theta will increase, what will happen to sine? Sine 0 is 0, 30 is half, 45 is 1 by root 2, right? 60 is root 3 by 2, and then again the 90 is 1, right? That means if the value of theta will increase, the value of sine theta will also goes on increasing, right? Now if the scattering angle will goes on increasing, sine to the power 4 theta by 2 will also goes on increasing, this denominator is also goes on increasing. If the denominator will goes on increasing with the increase of theta, number of alpha particles scattered will have to goes on increasing. Am I right? That means more the scattering angle, less is the number of alpha particle. That obviously we have observed that the number of alpha particle that is scattered by an angle of 180 degrees is very less. The number of alpha particles scattered by an angle more than 90 degrees is very less. The number of alpha particles scattered put an angle, scattering angle across one degree is a little bit high, and the number of alpha particles scattered with zero deviation angle is very high, yes or no? So if the scattering angle will goes on increasing, the number of alpha particles scattered will goes on decreasing. And here we have a numerical. What is that? If 100 alpha particles are scattered at 60 degree, find the number of alpha particles scattered at 90 degree. Right? So actually this is the actual formula, right, that we should use, because look, n theta is inversely proportional to sine 4 theta by 2. So whenever we will replace an equal sign, proportionality sign, by an equal sign, we can put a constant. K is a constant, and Z is what? Z is the atomic number of the foil that we are using, that is also constant. For gold it is 79. For other kind of foil it will be different, that is also be a constant for a particular arrangement. Is it okay? Are you getting my point? So it is very easy. N theta is equal to kz square sine to the power 4 theta by 2. Now for the scattering angle 60 degree, the number of alpha particle is what? 1000, right? Because 1000 alpha particles are scattered at 60 degree. So by using this formula, what we can write? 1000 equal to kz square sine to the power 4 theta 60 by 2 degree. Am I right? Now you have to find the number of alpha particles scattered at an angle of 90 degree. Now let x be the number of alpha particles scattered at theta equal to 90 degree. So what we can write? X is equal to kz square sine to the power 4 90 degree by 2, right? If I divide 1 by 2, what will happen? 1000 by x, because the kz square will get cancelled. So simply we can write 1000 by x is equal to sine to the power 4. This will come upside, na? If I will write x in the denominator, so this part should come upside. So sine to the power 4 45 degree, 90 by 2 is 45, and it is sine, what we can say, 60 by 2, it is 30 degree. So sine 45 is how much? 1 by root 2. So it is sine to the power 4. So 1 by root 2, 1 by root 2, 1 by root 2 into 1 by root 2. Sine 30 is what? Half. So it is 1 by half, 1 by half, 1 by half, and 1 by half. So this half and half will get cancelled. Sorry, this 1 by root 2 into 1 by root 2 will give you 1 by half, right? Am I right? 1 by root 2 into 1 by root 2 is 1 by half. So these two will get cancelled with this one. 1 by root 2 into 1 by root 2 is again 1 by half, that will get cancelled with this one. What will be left? It will be 1 by 1 by 4. 1000 by x is equal to 1 by 1 by 4. So it will be 1000 by 4 is equal to x, that is why x is equal to 250. So 250 is the correct answer. This is the correct answer.